May 29, 26. Roland Garros. 2 sets down to Novak Djokovic. A 19-year-old from Rio refuses to lose and drags the greatest of all time into a 5th set. You've just watched a 19-year-old drag Djokovic into a 5th set and refuse to lose. Somewhere in Rio, an older man is watching too, and he knows exactly what this boy is about to run into. It is 2001. Gustavo Kuerten sinks to the clay at Roland Garros and draws a heart in it with his racket. 3 French Opens already belong to him. He is the best clay courter breathing. He climbed to world number 3. He never climbed 1 rung higher, and no Brazilian man ever reached number 1. When Kuerten's knees finally gave out, the ranking sheet told a quiet, brutal story. For more than 25 years, the ceiling he hit stayed unbroken, and no one came near it. It is August 2006, Ipanema. A boy named João Fonseca is born 6 blocks from the sand, into a country that has spent a generation waiting for someone. By 17, he is the US Open Boys Champion, the first Brazilian to be crowned an ITF Junior World Champion and the number 1 junior on the planet. Then, 18 years old, 5 matches, 5 wins, not a single set dropped, and the next-gen ATP Finals is his. Only 2 teenagers had ever done that before him, Alcar RRZ and SIN. The radar gun reads 130 miles an hour. The forehand lands like a dropped anvil, rated one of the most explosive strikes on the entire tour. Behind the weapon stands a coach named Guilherme Teixeira, credited with sharpening that forehand and, the harder job, the nerve behind it. January 2025, Melbourne. He beats the 9th-ranked Andre Rublev in straight sets for his first top 10 win, still 18. A month later, he lifts his first ATP trophy in Buenos Aires, the youngest South American tour winner since 1990. By October, he owns Basel, the first Brazilian ever to take an ATP 500 title. He finishes 2025 ranked number 24, a height no Brazilian man had reached in a quarter of a century. Which brings you back to Paris, to Djokovic on the ground, and to the one line no Brazilian has ever crossed. Guga, the greatest they ever produced, ran out of road at number 3. The people who study this game now say Fonseca reaches the top 10 inside 2 seasons. The question is no longer whether he catches Guga. It is whether he becomes the first Brazilian in history to go where Guga never could. It is January 15, 2025. Rod Laver Arena. Across the net stands Andre Rublev, 9th in the world, a man who spent a decade earning that number. You are 18, and you have never beaten anyone ranked this high. 90 minutes later, 6-4, 6-4. It was never close. The commentators stopped using the word prospect that night. So how does a teenager from a country that never made a champion arrive at a top 10 scalp this fast? You rewind to a trophy no Brazilian had ever lifted. September 2023. Fonseca wins the US Open Boys title and becomes the first Brazilian ever crowned an ITF Junior World Champion. 17 years old, holding a trophy no countryman had touched. By December, he was the best junior alive. The climb from there was not a climb, it was a launch. The weapon behind it is a forehand that comes off the strings, like a flat stone skipped hard across water, fired in front of a serve the tour already fears at 130. Most opponents never get a clean second look at either. That forehand was not born, it was built. His coach, Guilherme Teixeira, sharpened the wing into a weapon and drilled the one thing teenagers almost never own, the nerve to close a match out. It is November 2024. Jeddah, the event for the best under-21 players on the planet. Fonseca walks through the entire week without dropping a single set. 5 matches, 5 wins. Only 2 teenagers had ever won that title before him. Their names were Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. He became the third and the first South American to do it at all. Back in Rio that February, the first ATP main draw of his life, he drew world number 50, Arthur Fils, and won the opening set 6-0. A bagel in his first big professional match, and the youngest man since Zverev to reach an ATP 500 quarterfinal. By early 2025, the milestones were landing faster than the record books could love them. Days after Melbourne, in Buenos Aires, he beat Francisco Cerúndolo 6-4, 7-6 for his first tour title, the youngest South American to win one since 1990. He finished that season ranked 24 in the world. For the first time in a generation, a Brazilian name sat within touching distance of the game's summit. And then the rocket stopped. He reached number 24 on November 3, 2025. He has since beaten the world number 4, yet in July 2026 his career high is still that exact number, 24, and he has slipped to 25. The fastest climb Brazil has ever produced has not gained a single place in 8 months. The next chapter is about the wall he hit, and why the very thing that made him rise this fast is now the thing holding him still. It's a hard court, deep in a rally you've already forgotten the start of. A ball sits up, waist high, and for 1/10 of a second, nothing about the point looks decided. Then his right arm loads, and the decision is made for everyone in the building. The racket comes through so fast, the ball is gone before the sound arrives. On a tour crowded with heavy hitters, coaches and analysts kept reaching for the same phrase, one of the most explosive forehands anyone is hitting. One shot. Point over. Behind that forehand sits a two-handed backhand, built not to win points on its own, but to hold the rally steady until the forehand gets the ball it wants. And the serve you already know, that 130-mile-an-hour bolt, is not really a serve in his hands. It is a way to pull the return short, so the forehand has something easy to execute. Serve, one step in, forehand, done. Match after match, it stopped being 3 separate shots and became one idea: take time away from the other man and never hand it back. Raw power is common. Plenty of teenagers hit the ball hard and still lose in the first round. What made this one different wasn't the arm, it was the man standing at the back fence. It is a practice court in Rio. The sun is flat, the balls are worn soft, and Guilherme Teixeira is not feeding the easy ones. He is feeding the exact ball that used to make the forehand collapse over and over until it stops collapsing. What Teixeira gets the credit for is 2 things at once: a forehand sharpened from a wild swing into a weapon that fires the same way every time, and a head that does not flinch when the scoreline turns ugly. You've already seen what that produces. Top 10 names walking to the net, shaking a teenager's hand, quietly wondering how he took the racket clean out of their grip. The blueprint worked. It kept working. But a game built to end points in 3 shots carries a hidden clause. It only wins when all 3 of those shots fire. And somewhere just past number 24, against the men who simply do not miss, the same weapon that made him the fastest climber Brazil ever produced began quietly handing points back. The best players in the world watched the exact same 3-shot pattern you just did, and they found the one ball that turns his greatest weapon against him. What they feed him, and why he still can't stop them from feeding it, is the wall. It is May 29, 2026. Court Philippe Chatrier, Roland Garros. You are 19 years old and you have just lost the first 2 sets to Novak Djokovic, 4-6, 4-6. 2 sets down means the counter is working. The best returner the game ever produced is feeding you the exact ball the tour learned to feed you. And for 90 minutes, it's knocked your forehand back into your body. So you already know how this ends. Rewind 16 months. January 15, 2025, Melbourne, 2nd round of the Australian Open. Across the net is Andrei Rublev, 9th in the world, and the scoreline you already remember reads 6-4, 6-4. 1 month later, on home clay in Buenos Aires, Francisco Cerundolo stands across a final, and you take it 6-4, 7-6. The tiebreak, a route at 7 points to 1. Then October, Basel, indoors, no clay to help you. Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, 6-4, 6-3, the first Brazilian ever to lift an ATP 500. Look at those 3 scorelines again. Not one went the distance. Clean, front-running tennis, the kind you only win when the pattern's landing. Which is exactly why Paris was supposed to be different. Back on Chatria, 2 sets gone. The pattern's dead, and this is the match that never showed up in the earlier scorelines, the one where the counter holds and you have to win anyway. 3rd set. You hold and hold again, and the forehand that got red all afternoon starts finding the corner. 6-3. 4th set, 7-5. 5th set, 7-5. Past 4 hours in, the first Brazilian in history to beat Novak Djokovic walks off Chatria. The titles proved you could win when the pattern worked. 5 sets against Djokovic proved you could lose that pattern for 2 hours and still not break. The results say top 10. The ranking says you went backward. Why the biggest wins a Brazilian ever strung together added up to a number that dropped is the one thing no scoreline will tell you. The ranking says 25. The country he plays for acts like it already has a king. Behind that middling number sits a record no Brazilian man had ever owned. He is the first of them in the entire history of the sport to break into the top 25. And today, no Brazilian is ranked above him. For 25 years, the ceiling had a name. Guga climbed to number 3 and never once touched the number above it. That empty space at number 1 is the ceiling KYOR10 left untouched. It is the one Fonseca was built to break. It is August 2006. In an apartment in Ipanema, a few streets from the beach, a boy is born into a country that has spent a generation waiting for someone to finish what Guga started. It is 2026 now. The stadium is not in Brazil, but half of it is, green and yellow in every row, and the noise breaking over him rivals what Guga once heard at his peak, a national phenomenon before a single Grand Slam to his name. History has been careful about the company it keeps him in. Only 3 players have ever won the next-gen finals at 18. Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sine, and the kid from Ipanema, the first South American to do it. The people who forecast these things have already put a year on it. Top 10, they say, by 2026 or 2027. Top 10 is a prediction anyone can make. No, 1 is the number Guga carried Brazil to the edge of, and no forecaster will yet promise. Guga did not just climb a ranking. He won Roland Garros 3 times and knelt to carve a heart into the clay. So the bar in Brazil was never a number, it was that feeling, and a feeling cannot be inherited. History filed his name beside 2 others, Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner. The next chapter is the day one of them stops being company and becomes the wall between Fonseca and the number no Brazilian has ever held. If this brought the match back to you, subscribe for the next one.